Brothers and sisters, before we begin, let's recite Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha for all of our deceased ones, and inshallah, so that all of our needs and our requests may be answered. بعد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل وعلى آل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, we ask Allah to again send His greatest peace and blessings upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We praise Allah for all the blessings He has given us, and the greatest blessing being that He allowed us to be of the ones who remain steadfast, dedicated, and loyal on the path of our Master after the Prophet, the commander of the faithful, the prince of the believers, the protector of the Prophet and his message, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. We praise Allah for this blessing and every blessing, for without Allah we would have nothing. Assalamu alaikum, my dear respected brothers, my dear respected sisters, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Imam Ali alayhi salam is in the marketplace. And at this time, he's the Khalifa, the head of state. Under his dominion, under his rule, under his hand are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. Under his dominion, under his authority, under his hand are lands that stretched from Persia to Egypt. But Imam Ali alayhi salam walked in the marketplace alone. No entourage, no one to hold them on his shoulders. Imam Ali alayhi salam walked amongst the people. He was the people's champion, the people's leader, the people's man. He was one of them. But when he was walking in this marketplace in the city of Kufa this particular day, he witnessed something that history would record, so that we could reflect on, you and I, today and every day moving forward, on how do we look at one another. Imam Ali alayhi salam sees an elderly man begging. Picture the scene. This elderly man is going from person to person. Please, help me. Please, spare some change. Please, I barely have clothes on my back. I don't have food to eat. I have no family. I have no one. Please help me. This man is going from person to person. Now I want you to think about this for a second. Who here has ever been in need? I'll raise two hands. I'll be vulnerable. I'm still in need. I am in need. Who here has been in need? Who here has needs? Imagine you were in a situation where you found yourself needing to ask other people. And guess what? Not just family or friends, needing to ask complete strangers. Imagine, this elderly man was in this situation. Imam Ali is watching the scene. And he sees not just this elderly man begging, but he sees nobody responding to him, ignoring him. One after the other, the Imam is watching people ignore him. So Imam Ali alayhi salam, the narration tells us, he says, "Ma hadha?" What is this? So somebody, here's the Imam saying, "Ma hadha?" What is this? He responds, "Oh, he's just a Christian." Just a Christian. Imam Ali alayhi salam reprimands the man. And then at this time, mind you, most people don't realize that this is the Khalifa walking amongst them. Again, no entourage, nobody holding him on their shoulders, no fancy stuff. He's just walking a man amongst the people. The Imam raises his voice. The color in his face changes. He says, Wayhak, woe unto you. How dare you use the man up in his youth and now neglect him in his old age? Go to the treasury at once and take care of every single one of his needs. That was the justice of Ali ibn Abi Talib, a man, a leader, who was moved at the sight of a man who did not believe the same faith as he did. He was moved and made sure that his believers, those who were faithful to him, were moved as well. So you and I, brothers and sisters, tonight, in Laylatul Qadr, let's be moved to ask for each other's needs. Let's be moved to think of each other and what we need in our lives, what we want in our lives. Sayyid Haidar continued to repeat in the previous nights, let us not leave here without praying for one another. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is generous. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all giving. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to grant us what we ask Him. So imagine what a grant He would give if we're asking for each other and not just ourselves. So tonight, my dear brothers and sisters, and inshallah tomorrow night, Sayyid Haidar is going to go into some of the more details of the great night of power which is to come on Thursday. But as we continue to prepare for it, tonight, come in with that mindset. Come in with that mentality. I'll tell you here, and I want everybody to listen carefully to this. As we mourn Imam Ali alayhi salam tonight, and I'm going to recite a majlis in his honor. As we mourn Imam Ali alayhi salam tonight, the commander of the faithful, the prince of the believers, the one who was unmatched in his worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you know what he prayed for on a night like this? Do you know what Ali ibn Abi Talib prayed for on a night like this? This same night, 1,400 years ago, do you know what he prayed for? He prayed for the orphans. He prayed for the needy. He prayed for all of the individuals in his community. He prayed for their salvation. He prayed for their guidance. He prayed that they would become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let us take from that. Let us take from that. I know we all have needs. I have needs. We have things that we need to take care of. We have family members that are ill. We may be worried about literally how to make the next payment this month. It's okay. Pray for those things. But don't forget about the bigger picture. Don't forget about the bigger picture. No matter how young or old you are, no matter where you are in your journey, in your life, don't forget about the bigger picture. Imam Ali alayhi salam, during this time, we mentioned yesterday the battles that he was facing. That Imam Ali alayhi salam had the courage, had the bravery, had the wisdom to show people that even if you are Muslims and you are conflicting amongst one another, even amongst Muslims, if we are in conflict, if we disagree, that doesn't mean that we push each other outside of our faith, we push each other outside of our community. When you see yourself in the lens, in the paradigm of Imam Ali alayhi salam, as he guided and instructed in the last year of his life to his governor in Egypt, Malik al-Ashtar, who unfortunately, because Malik would be killed on his way to Egypt before he would rule Egypt. Many of us, we hear letter 53 from Nahj al-Balagha, Ahd al-Ashtar. The executive order of Imam Ali alayhi salam as the Khalifa to his newly appointed governor. Malik al-Ashtar never ruled Egypt. He was killed on his way there. A lot of people don't realize that. But what Ahd al-Ashtar became for all the generations later were to show you and I, how does my Imam see the world? And if my Imam sees the world this way, I need to follow and see the world just like he does. Who wants to see the world the way the Imam sees the world? I'm not seeing enough hands. Who wants to see the world the way the Imam sees the world? Beautiful. And if your hand isn't raised, inshallah it'll be raised soon. Imam Ali alayhi salam tells Malik al-Ashtar, O Malik, do not be a ferocious beast over your subjects, your citizens. You are to treat people as one of two kinds, either your brother in faith or your equal in humanity. أخ لك في الدين أم نظير لك في الخلق. Your brother in faith or your equal in humanity. Now take that paradigm and apply it to the story that Imam Ali alayhi salam had with the elderly Christian man that was begging in the marketplace. Now if there's an elderly Christian man that's begging in the marketplace and Imam Ali alayhi salam says, I'm not moving from here until he is taken care of, then I want to ask you guys something. If you have your brother, your sister, your family, and by family I mean our community, if you know somebody's in need and your heart isn't moved by that, then you really need to rethink your priorities. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said, the Muslim, the person who calls himself a Muslim, who wakes up in the beginning of the day and doesn't think about what's going on in his community or her community, is not from us. ليس منا. So when you share this belief in La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, know that this is an honor like no other. And know you belong to a family, a community like no other. You belong to the community of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. On the commemoration of the night of the martyrdom of Imam Ali alayhi salam, I want to take you not just to his death. I'm going to take you back almost 40 years to the death of Rasulullah, 30 years. Do you know, our narrations tell us that when our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, when the hour of his death came, do you know that our Prophet was in pain? And the angel Azrael, the angel of death, is talking to Rasulullah, asking him for permission to take his soul. The Prophet ﷺ responds and says, my will is the will of Allah. If it's my time, it is my time. When Azrael begins taking the soul of Rasulullah, the Prophet is in pain. He tells him, Ya Azrael, is it so that this death is painful like this? Azrael is embarrassed. He lowers his head and he says, Ya Rasulullah, because you are the beloved of God in your favor with Allah, Allah had ordered me to make it the least painful for you. You know what our Prophet responded? He said, my nation is going to feel this pain? He said, yes. He said, Azrael, give me that pain so that they don't have to go through this pain. Look at how much your Prophet Muhammad loves you. He saw into the future. He saw the generations to come. He saw the billions of people that would say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And he thought about you before you even came into existence. He told Azrael, give me the pain that they would experience. Let me take their pain, so you don't have to go through it. And that is why he was rahmatan lil alameen, the mercy to mankind, the beloved of God. Fall in love with Muhammad. Fall in love with Habibullah. And you know how you fall in love with Habibullah? You fall in love with Ali. You fall in love with this man who even his killer, he would show him mercy. When Imam Ali alayhi salam was struck, you know what he said? And I'm going to read this off to you so that you can think of the words that the Imam reflected. Most of us hear, Fustu wa Rabbul Kaaba, and that was the first thing that the Imam responded. By God, I am victorious. But sometime later, the Imam, as he was enduring his injury, he says, by Allah, sudden death through a sudden attack like this is not something that I dislike. Rather, it is my state like this that I know I am reaching my beloved. Look at how the Imam talks about Allah. It is in this state that I experience my happiness. It is this state of a person who reaches the waters during the night in the lonely forest and becomes overjoyed by finding it. I was given freedom from grief of yesterday. And now I enter the light from the darkness of tonight. And now I experience the elixir of life.